Well, good morning and welcome to Zen Live, or Ideas That Can Change Your Life. It's a beautiful day here in Blackstone, the center of the world, but then you too are the center of your world. And I've fallen in love with this little Buddhist prayer wheel that a friend of mine gave me some years ago, and it was just lying on my shelf, unused and understood and not appreciated for its metaphorical richness. This is a spinning prayer wheel. In these little, what they do in these prayer wheels is they write prayers. Prayers are in here. I pull it apart. I think they're all written in there. So you can put a prayer or an idea in here, and then you can spin it. Did you see Inception? That was about spinning dreams and going into the dream and changing the dream and coming back out. And so I wrote up today the title of here, The Spinning Stories of Prabhakar. You notice that if you go back a few talks, I talked about my name is Prabhakar. I see a little name tag here. Prabhakar was the name that Swami Muktananda gave me when I was following him in his ashram. I don't know, he didn't personally give it to me. I think it was just cranked out by the ashram machine. But anyway, I've kind of like reactivated that as a, if I wanted to name who was writing these stories that I create on Facebook, like this, you see. So this talk, doggone it, there we go. I keep forgetting to start my little timer. So these talks these stories are 20 minutes. And as you can see, this is a 20-minute spin. And who's creating it? Well, I don't really know. So I'll just say Prabhakar's doing it. That way, if I screw up, Ed Conley, if I embarrass myself, if I get a deer in the headlights thing and get a brain freeze or something, or have a senior moment or whatever, Prabhakar did it. You see? So he's spinning this story, you see. Ed Conley's not doing it. I'm free. I'm innocent. Any problems? Call Prabhakar. So that leads me to the what's in the news. Hurricanes are in the news. So these stories by Prabhakar are kind of like MacGyver. Now, I love MacGyver, the old one, because whenever he was in a fix, he just grabbed what was available and got out of the fix. So I come here to make a story. That's a fix. What am I going to say? I'm in a fix. What should I use? What should I tell? I don't know. I'll just grab what's available. So what's available? Hurricanes are available. So this is very interesting. And I've been kind of like milking this hurricane as a metaphor for some time now because, well, they've been in the news. And if you step back, in space, take a picture of the Atlantic, you'll see a whole bunch of little hurricanes there. I think there's 3 of them out there right now. And this one, there's Irma has our attention. Like hurricanes, they're out there. Don't pay attention to that. Wait a minute, that one right there, that one's getting my attention. So hurricanes get our attention because we can't control them. Now, North Korea is a hurricane, and we're trying to control it. But they don't want to be controlled, you see. So, hurricane, here's North Korea, and it's spinning a world out there, and we can't control it, and it's driving us crazy. Hurricanes can't be controlled, and they drive us crazy, but, we kind of like accept that. We can't control hurricanes. Maybe someday science will come up with a way to salt the hurricane so it disappears. You sprinkle something on it and it'll go, break up, fall apart, you see. But anyway, that's the belief of the science story. That's spinning the science story. Someday we'll control everything. But there's always going to be something you can't control. And that gets us to the fact of spinning stories. Now, one thing that's always funny, on news, like Fox particularly, the no spin area. There's no spin here. Well, when anybody says there's no spin, you can be sure there's spin. So, right. So, but the point is that there are, the Russian nesting dolls are interesting because you keep finding new stories in each doll. So, we all spin stories. I'm just in I started a story. I started a post on the conspiracy theories of the Twin Towers. And that post is still spinning. There are a couple of people on my post that's been going for 3 days. They're still spinning. It's like two twin towers with two different perspectives on the truth, two different stories of the truth. Did the planes bring it down, or did explosions bring it down? Two twin towers, and they're still arguing. Each one growing stronger and stronger, trying to consume the other one, so there's only one story left, you see. The last story standing. Twin towers fighting each other to see the last one standing. Well, let's go a little bit deeper into this spinning of stories. You see, we all spin stories in the sense that I'm spinning a story here, but only I'm not sure how it's going to come out. But we're all spinning stories, but there's one story that we don't know who's spinning it. And that's our life story. Now, I'm old enough, I'm 80 years old, and I can look back and I can see, as if I were looking at the Atlantic Ocean in a time lapse, and I can look back and see all the stories I've spun. I can see all the decades, the adventures, the failures. All of them were stories I spun and then lived in. If you have a project, you have an idea, I'm going to paint the house. And that story is a spinning story. And it generates energy. And you've got the energy now to paint the house. And you may go day and night, just filled with energy, spinning that thing. The eye of that story is the idea of painting the house. And it unites everything. That single idea has no conflict. If it has a conflict, it won't generate the energy to paint the house. You'll say, maybe we'll do it tomorrow. Or maybe the color's not right. Or maybe, this is not the right time. Or I don't think I should paint the house. That ambiguity comes in, and that destroys the hurricane. So the hurricane, the story that generates energy, is a single unambiguous idea. A single unambiguous idea. When it's ambiguous, it self-divides and self-destructs because it can't sustain the energy. So it's the unambiguous single idea that creates energy to paint the house. Or I'm going to get married. That's the one I'm going to marry. That is a single unambiguous idea. I know this is the one. We all have that experience. I know this is what I'm going to do. I'm 5 years old and I see a ballerina, and I know at 5, I can know that's who I'm going to be. People all report of these single ideas. These single ideas that create a story, and then we live in it until circumstances no longer support the story. Maybe I break my leg. Well, now I can't be a ballerina. Maybe the person I marry changes or dies. Now that idea dies, you see. So as long as the conditions are right, that story with its single idea, unambiguous idea, will maintain itself, you see. So the single idea, you see, is this thing right here. There's no ambiguity here. There's just one. This is the one without a second. And that sustains. But who is the hand that spins the reality in which I live? Who is the hand that spins the world, the story in which I live? You see. Here, 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 here. If I do not awakening, what is awakening? Is awakening to the fact that I am creating the world, the story in which I live. If I'm not awake, I say God's doing it. Now I'm powerful this because my story is created by God, you see. But then that too can change. Or I say fate did it. Or I say there's all kinds of causes to the story, to the spinner, you see. But the final cause, which is basically the non-dual traditions, Buddhism, awakening, and the teachings of Jesus, is that I am the creator of the world in which I live. So I'm a co-creator of God. That changes everything. Because if I'm creating the world that I live in, even if, and this world is ambiguous in the sense that I'm in conflict with the world, I'm a victim of the world's not going right. All I'm getting is red lights instead of green lights. The world's not working for me. That's my story too. If I'm always losing, if I'm always struggling, if I'm always being burnt up, if I'm always being a victim, that's my story too. Everything is my story. And so then I would say, well, if the story is unhappy, if the story is not working for me, why am I creating it? So now see, so that, of course I'm not creating it. Why would I create pain? So somebody else must be doing it. The devil's doing it. The government's, Obama's doing it. Somebody's doing it. Hillary's doing it. Nancy Pelosi's doing it. Trump's doing it. You see, somebody's doing it, but I'm not doing it. I'm innocent. I'm not creating. I'm not God. You think I'm Jesus? I'm not creating my story. I'm not creating the world, we say. But this is an assumption we're not looking into. We're not investigating. I'm almost done with my book, The Crack in the Cosmic Egg, and it's been very inspirational for me. And one thing Joseph Chilton Pearce points out, is that the mystical teaching of Jesus is really teaching is teaching an open system, an open mind relationship to the world in which you create the world. But then that idea of you creating the world got inverted by Greek logic. And so that got inverted in Greek logic, which has created our civilization. So it gets inverted into God created the world, and you didn't do it. You're innocent. God's the creator, you see. So if it's not working out for you, well then you're doing something wrong. You know, you've sinned, you see. So you need to believe in God a little more because he's the one, you see. But it's heretical to say the Father and I are one. The great illusion is, you see, that this Jesus did it, and that was a one-time thing. But what Jesus was saying is that the way, the followers of the way, is that you are the open creator. You are the open mind. You are the spinner. You are the spinner, you see. And when we see that, everything changes. Because two things happen. You realize I'm in the world. I can't be out of it. Even if I think I'm out of it, I'm still in it, you see. So I am writing a story in real time. I am creating a story in real time that's conditioned by my past, my parents, where I'm born, my language, my experiences, all of these conditions. So my 80 years of conditioning have brought me to this point, and I can't deny that. I can't change that. I have to be like MacGyver, and I have to use it. I have to use my past, my conditioning, to create myself. Fresh. Unambiguously. Unambiguously, you see. So that unambiguity is the eye of the story maker. So you can create a story about the world in which you are the creator. So I'm creating a story here about you as being the unambiguous creator of your life, you see. So this whole, I've been really working with this, and I struggle and I discover as I come and talk with you. And this unambiguity is really the eye of our life that changes our life because it's not in conflict with anything. See, ambiguity means conflict. Ambiguity means it's logical, it's created by logic. When I say created by logic, I mean Greek logic says this cup is this cup, and this cup is not this cotton ball. The cup is the cup, the cotton ball is the cotton ball. They can't be the same at the same time. The only way the cotton ball and the cup can be the same thing in the same time is in art, or a dream, or a movie, in a story. But in reality, the cotton ball and the cup cannot be the same thing in reality, because reality is structured by logic. So everything is what it is. Now, if everything is what it is, then how can I create the story of the world? How can I create my life, you see, when I'm the created? You see, if everything is what it is, then I'm created by what is. And now I'm in conflict with it because it's not working for me. It's not working out the way I was promised. It's not working out the way the world was promised when I was a child, coming into this world before Santa Claus died. When I was a child before Santa Claus died, it was a wonderland. Everything was play. There was no ambiguity. I created my world in play. I was the king of my world, the king of the world, like on the Titanic. I was the king before Santa Claus died. And then Santa Claus died. And I remember. Hope you can handle this digression. I remember, I don't know, maybe I was 4 or 5. And the kids were talking about it. And I remember asking my mother if it was true that Santa Claus wasn't real. Now we get up into a grow up in adults and say, is it true God isn't real? Do you remember when God died? Well, who is the God that died? If God is dead for you. Well, it was the God out there that created you into this mess. See? Or the world's a mess. Well, did God create that? Well, yes, he created it. Why did he do that? Well, now we got to come up logically to come up to some explanation why God created hurricanes that's now destroying Florida. Oh, well, it's because of the gays. It's because of the homosexuals. Another story. You spin those stories, you see. We don't remember that we're the spinner. We don't remember. We have forgotten the child before Santa Claus died, who spun worlds, you see. The child spins a world and lives in it. The family's on an outing. They have a flat tire. They're all pissed off and stressed. and yelling at each other. And the child is playing with the nuts on the hubcap in the dirt. He's perfectly happy playing with the nuts from the tire in the dirt while the parents are throwing the jack at each other. The wife is beating the husband wants to leave. The child spins the world and lives in it, you see. And that's before Santa Claus died. When Santa Claus died, it's kind of like a psychic circumcision. Now, we'll face up to reality. There's just this physical thing world out here. It's already created. It exists outside of you. When you're born, you come into it and you mess with it and play with it and you get screwed up and you get old and die and you leave it. But it stays the same. Just like this, you see. That's the fallacy of the misplaced God. We think God did it, or if you don't want to believe in God, you say, well, the Big Bang did it. And what's the Big Bang's purpose? Well, there's no purpose. It's just a bunch of marbles bouncing around and coming up with a monkey.